Okay. Good evening, good morning, everyone. This is the Raleigh special meeting agenda for June 13, the Raleigh Board of Selectmen 2019. Will you join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. We have a single item on our agenda. That's a 10 a.m. appointment with Fire Chief Broderick to discuss a request for the additional fire hydrant for the Pine Grove School project. Just let me say that at the construction meeting last Friday, Tom Hood from W.T. Rich and Sons told Joe and I that we needed to decide this issue very soon because they want to get going on the site, and that's why I called this meeting. So, Chief.
Okay. If I would have been available last Monday to discuss this. What happened? I didn't watch the minutes. I had other things going on last night. The meeting, but in the very beginning of this project, before any shovels were in the ground or anything, we met with powers to be in the design firm to go through what public safety needed. And there was three things that the school was lacking: a fire suppression system, sprinkler system, roadway around the building, and more fire hydrants were needed. In reality, the building is over 69,000 square feet on footprint, and if you add the second floors with the east wing and the south wing and the basement, it puts it over to 100,000 square feet. There's one fire hydrant that's providing water for the project. The ultimate goal was to have a second hydrant behind the station, behind the building, and I brought it up along with the roadway in these meetings. Unfortunately, I have no minutes or any. In the way things were done with the public safety building, we didn't get correspondence back and forth. I went to a handful of working group meetings that only pertained to the fire department. How many of those? Between 4 and 5, I think I attended. So, in the first meeting we asked for that, the second hydrant. It would have been closer to the building than what it is proposed now. And in this spring I went to another meeting, and they saw the plan with the revision to the roadway up front. There's no mention of any fire hydrant in the back. I asked about the fire hydrant. I said that I asked for, and it wasn't there. Well, everybody looked at me like I had 6 heads and did not recollect me asking for this. Again, I got nothing other than the sprinkler design plan, which I have right here, that was drafted in September of last year for the East Wing renovation, which shows the connection near the Link Gallery, which is where the old nurse's office was. It's in that area. So it's not like we didn't discuss it because it's on these plans. We also discussed lengthening the road to get us around the building. And the reason for the second hydrant is where the current fire hydrant's located. It's up into almost where the front parking area is. And even back when the building wasn't renovated, the minute we put the hose down, we would block any access to the back of the north wing, or even to the front of the north wing, because where the hydrant's located, into the front door, put the hose down, and there's nothing that's going to go around it. The idea with the second door, because the way that the building's laid out, if us having that hydrant around back, the truck could have tied into the sprinkler system back there, but also it puts us in a location in the building where we can cut off a lot of extra space that we don't need to drag hose through to get to wherever the fire may be. We could access the east wing, we could access the link, we could even access the south wing from that area. So it gives us a little bit more flexibility as to where we're going. There is no what they call standpipes in the system where we would tie in, and they're normally in areas like stairwells and stuff like that. It was something that was not agreed to early on. So the idea was to be able to go through the link and access as many parts of the building as possible, and then leave the front of the building open for the ladder truck to set up, or ladder trucks, but also give us a way of getting around the back so that we can access the east wing, which up until now we never had the ability to do. They've added the road going around the back of the gymnasium. It ideally would have been all the way around, but because of the way the site's laid out, it's just impossible to do. So I thought this hydrant was going to be in, and when I was at the spring meeting, it wasn't there. And I asked the question. And I don't know who it was. It said, well, we gave you a fire department connection in the back for the sprinkler system. I said, well, that's all fine and good. It doesn't do me any good because I'm closing the road off, putting the hose down to go from the hydrant around the building to that connection. So it really doesn't help us any. So ideally I wanted to have it closer to the building, but to try to make this thing, because of all the site work that was done, Tom Hood and I came up with an idea to locate it somewhere in the vicinity of where the construction trailer is. And that was the end. I didn't know, haven't heard anything else more about this hydrant until I've had the, our meeting from last Monday. It's something that I didn't come up with out of the air just now. I've been chief for almost 22 years here. I've never, I think you guys know how I operate. I wouldn't have done this if I didn't ask for it early on. And when I was at this meeting, that's when I found out that it wasn't there.
Right. Well, it's $130,000 for the change order, right?
That's what I heard.
That's what we've been told.
And it should have been involved in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I can show you the plans, the sprinkler plans that show the connection in the building, so it's not like it was never discussed, in my opinion. Unfortunately, I have no written documents to back up any of this, because, again, we didn't go to all the meetings and never saw drawings or anything like that, other than the sprinkler plans.
This footprint, you said for the building is, with the second floor is like 100,000?
Would you add the second floors in the basement to 69,000, brings it just a little over 100,000 square feet.
Is there any kind of national code where, when you have a footprint like this in a building?
Usually, buildings that big have between 2 and 3 hydrants around them.
Okay.
Which is most of the buildings we have in town have at least 3 hydrants. Putting the 3rd hydrant in would be kind of problematic, excuse me, on the south wing, just because of the nature of the site.
But is there any national code or anything like that? I know the codes are very
They're
different.
very vaguely worded, and
Okay.
it depends on situations as to how you require, if you need extra fire flow and stuff like that. But then it would require more hydrants, but being that we're on a stub end, it's not a looped system. I could ask for 10 hydrants down there, say, but whoever grabs the closest hydrants to the water source is going to grab all the pressure and all the volume. So the yellow ones would be, they wouldn't give the potential because there's no other source of water coming in to feed the main.
Well, I remember being in when I was on the planning board, and we were talking about connecting the loop.
Yes.
And you were adamant about adding fire hydrants.
Forest
up on
ridge?
the-
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're usually,
Exactly.
the way that's required now is 1 every 500 feet is the norm. But in a bigger building, if you're going all the way around, depending on where the seat of the fire is you don't want to use the closest hydrant so that you don't put down a ton of hose to block
Right.
access or egress. And that's what would happen. No matter how, even with the layout of the site now, the front parking lot, the hose is going across. Unfortunately, when you get hose, our hose is 5-inch supply line, which is good, gives us a lot of water. It gives us all the water that's available in the hydrant. The downside to the hose is it's very heavy. Once it's full of water, you can't move it. And the hose is designed to stretch and get fat when water's in it, and it doesn't stay in a straight line. So it'll end up looking like spaghetti going down the road. The only time it won't do that is if you're testing it, and then you're there and trying to keep everything lined up so you get as much hose down as you possibly can. But in a fire, it doesn't happen. And 5-inch hose is 102 pounds per length of weight, empty. Yeah, the water, it ends up being almost 200 pounds, and it's very difficult to move when there's water in it. Hose bridges, they don't really work well no matter what size hose you have. When you get the bigger hose, to get it so that you have an easy grade up over the hose, because it could be almost 6 inches in height. They're heavy, they're big, and they're not easy to move around.
I just remember for cubic foot of water is like 32 pounds, if I remember correctly, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Again, there isn't an easy answer to the situation we have right now. I did ask for it before. It's the only thing I can say. I asked for it before. I didn't just make this up.
You know, it'd be nice if we had something in writing that said that, you know, that
Exactly.
reflects that. Joe Perry couldn't remember. He had no
Like I said,
no
they're on the
recollection.
sprinkler drawings, and these are from last year.
Can we see?
Sure.
And would that be in the meeting minutes, something?
It might be. I mean, I don't know. It was a working group. I didn't go to
Yeah,
the working group. So I
I
wasn't on
don't
the
know
working group.
if there was notes or if they were
Oh, the
what.
working group is subject to the open meeting law.
Should be
They
min- it
would
should be
vote that,
minutes.
and there needs to be minutes.
Thank you for bringing these.
Now, this is the east wing here. This is the north wing, excuse me. This is the east wing. So this is the front entrance here, and there's the current sprinkler connection, and this is the hydrant. Will be over in this vicinity. This is go around, and this is where the nurse's office used to be,
Yep.
in the link, and this is where they're showing the Storts connection for the fire department connection. So, we talked about it. Or wouldn't have been on those plans. And these are from September of last year when they designed the plans for the east wing.
It says FD connections, fire
Fire
department
department
connection,
connection,
yeah.
4-inch Storts, which is what it is. Same as what's up on the front.
And so then they didn't follow these plans when they built it,
This-
is what you're saying?
No, this work hasn't been done yet. This is what's going to be part of the phase this summer's construction.
Okay.
And, the whole building isn't fully sprinkled yet.
Okay,
This is the next phase of the project.
okay. So now, this is the next phase of the project, and
Right.
they're saying that they weren't gonna include that on this phase. Correct? That's what's on these plans?
No, that's going to be put in. That's
Okay.
constructed. What we're talking about is the fire hydrant. That
Right.
would be for us to use so we can tie into that.
Right.
So where are you proposing to put the fire hydrant now?
Well, right now, because I don't have a site plan, so we're talking somewhere around here as a compromise, just to keep it,
How is that a compromise?
because I wanted it here,
Right.
down in here, and trying to keep the price apparently down.
So why is it more cheaper? Why is it cheaper to be
Because
back
you're not
there?
running more product down there, pipe and what have you. And
Well,
there
let's-
is
let's
Pipe would go all the way down here.
that, and you still have to dig up what's already been put down for the binder coat for the roadway and stuff, I would imagine. That's the other problem with all this, is all the work that they've done in here already's got to be dug up.
I just took a ride over there for the meeting, and this hydrant that's over here is a complete waste, as far as I'm concerned, other than it gives you water.
Yeah,
Because, well, number one, it's
it's always been a
It's a
problem.
long way from the building. And
Right.
number two is, I understand when you say if you put a run hose, you basically isolated all the rest of the building from.
Yeah, all the extra pavement we put in place to get access to the building we never had.
So unless those trucks get out there before you hook up hose,
Yeah,
they're not gonna have, they're not gonna
access.
get access.
right.
'Cause, I mean, I guess to the bigger picture is that the outside design of this whole project has been wanting, from the need for snow plowing
Yeah,
and widening the road, widening. I mean, one of the early meetings I went to of the regular committee meetings, there was a big discussion, and you were there. I don't remember talking about fire hydrants, but about the road going out back.
Right.
And even for the buses, I mean, they're going to have to widen the road now at our cost to allow proper bus egress and entrance and egress.
I know that was a lot.
And then they're talking about we're going to have to buy a snow machine because the plowing is with the curbings and the islands and all the other stuff. The other thing is when you're going in the entrance there, you get up to in front of the auditorium, and all of a sudden there's a big jut out of curbing for no particular reason other than it's in the way of everything. And I mean, I haven't paid a lot of attention to this. I know at the police and fire we did there is a fire hydrant directly behind the two buildings.
Right. There's three on the site altogether.
So I mean, we certainly went out of our way to make sure that that they had hydrant access. Now, what we can do here, I mean, I don't want to spend $130,000 for sure, but on the other hand, to me, we basically almost have no hydrants here at all, because this hydrant looks nice. It's painted red. It's got a nice pole on it, but in actuality, if you've got a fire somewhere, I mean, we're saved a little bit because we now have a sprinkler system, which we never had before. But
what they also did, which I noticed last fall when the frost went in, or actually it was last winter, they planted a tree right next to the current hydrant that shouldn't be there. So the tree gets bigger and it's going to affect that particular hydrant. But they're supposedly, if it hasn't been removed, it's going to be removed. But again, I don't know. I didn't make it up.
no, I mean, it's a real problem. Like I say, for $130,000, it's outrageous.
Yeah, all I can
Put a
say.
second hydrant in, but it's a long distance.
It's a lot of extra pipe to put down. It's going to be 6-inch pipe in the hydrant, plus all the excavation that has to be done and repair work to the what's already in place. But that was when I first became chief here. That was one of the biggest, one of many concerns I had with that school was only one fire hydrant, no access to the back of the building, and no sprinkler system.
Yeah.
Now you've got the sprinkler system.
I got the sprinkler
You've got
system.
the access.
And
Well,
the access,
that's,
but I don't have the proper location of the hydrant. Because that one it's always been in the wrong spot.
A sprinkler system is to suppress the fire.
Right. Most sprinkler
It's
systems,
not to put the fire out.
in certain cases,
In cer-
it will do it. But the problem with sprinkler heads is, and it depends on the system, everyone is different, is that they're designed to have, most effective use is if it's less than 10 to 14 heads going off at once. The minute you have more than that going off, then the system cannot sustain enough water flow to put the
Right.
fire out. Part of when we go into a fire in a building that's sprinkled is there's an allowance for hose lines in the equation, and if you look through the plans, you'll see, and it depends on what part of the building it is, up to 130 gallons for fire hoses. The minute we start going over that and flowing water, it's robbing from the supply going into the sprinkler system. And that's why we hook in to the system to boost the pressure and the volume of water in it to kind of keep the adequate water flow out of the heads going. But once you get past that magic number, we can't overcompensate for that or compensate for that loss.
And I'm preaching to the choir here, but as you know, fires are unpredictable.
Yes.
I mean, you think you have control, and then all of a sudden, it's out of control.
That's right. And I mean, all right, you look at it this way, is that nothing's ever happened there in all the years that the school's been around, since the first part was built in the 50s. Well, that's true. And it just also could be true that we would have a fire there and never have a problem. But all it takes is that one time
That's right.
with the problem and one person losing their life. And I can't predict that. If I could predict that, I'd be a rich man right now. and I'm not.
To
I don't,
protect the
I wish
investment
there was
of
an
the school.
easier solution to this problem, but I did ask for this in the beginning. That's the one thing I can tell you with certainty, and I think you guys know me, I've been here long enough to, I don't make stuff up midstream.
Yeah, I know that because I've been on the planning board and I, heard the chief, especially when we did Forest Ridge, and you came up and spoke about trying to make the connection through the back
Right.
and about the fire hydrants. You were, adamant about that project, so.
So I guess it's a matter of how we figure out how we pay for it or they pay for it. I assume in the end we'll pay for it.
You know, one way or another, I guess I would, the end user always pays for it.
Well, even if they had gone forward with the plan.
There would still been a cost.
There would still have been a cost, and we don't know how much of this would be.
Exactly,
Would be an increase in the cost.
right. That's the unknown.
Yeah.
There would have been a cost involved in this, even if it was put in the beginning.
Right.
The only thing that you can say for certainty is that the restoration work that you have to do now wouldn't have been included.
Right.
Well, you have to, I did this, I did conduit projects and everything else on a phone company. And when you put the shovel in the ground, especially when you go on a paved street, okay, there's the existing, and you have to go in and dig down, you have to make saw cut down on the pavement, and then we come back afterwards, after we do the excavation, and you place the conduit in and everything else, and then you would put, hot top it back over and do heat treatment. Okay, that's what
This
the
is
cost
only
is.
the binder coat is down.
Yeah, only the binder coat, but
Yeah.
still, you have to,
Yeah.
you
You know,
have
there
to
may be
treat
some
it.
sidewalk work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to
right.
deal with too.
So, it's, so you put the shovel in the ground, it's expensive.
Yeah.
You know that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Paid $60,000 for a deck, I mean.
Yeah.
How big is your deck? I gotta replace mine.
No.
Well, like I said, I think we gotta, the initial assessment was that, maybe we can get by without this, but after looking at,
Yeah.
I didn't realize until I
That
went over there
hydrant's a good
today,
distance from
this,
the-
this hydrant here is basically a roadblock more than it is anything else.
Always
Now,
has.
if we do this, we're running a 6-inch line from that hydrant to the next hydrant. So what does that do for the water draw from the street? If you've got two hydrants running,
Well, if we have.
plus the sprinkle line is a separate line from the street?
It'll tie,
Into it at some point, into the water main. Where that is right now, I don't know. But if we had the second hydrant in place, we would be using the second one around back. We wouldn't use the one in front because we want to keep as much of the building open for access as possible. And where that hydrant is right now, it's not. If it was closer to the building,
Yeah.
it would have been an easier solution.
Should have been on the other side of the road, up close to the building.
Well, yeah.
Really?
I mean, in reality, in the beginning, the school should have had a couple of things, sprinkler system, more hydrants, and the road all the way around it, before this project even started. The code called for it back then, in the 80s, so how it happened, I wasn't here, I don't know.
I didn't sit in on this project, but I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, if I'm if I'm an architect or a designer to this project, one of the things I would have been thinking about is fire suppression and,
And
hydrants.
right, and there would have been a cost involved.
Yeah.
It's not like it was no cost to have it in the beginning. There was still a cost associated. It's not going to be wouldn't have been as much as what we're potentially looking
Well,
at now.
the site plan has been done horribly. I mean, let's just state it, from one thing, the entryway, we paid that under protest. But we could have paid everything under protest because they've done a horrible job. It needs to be stated.
No, I agree. I think the entrance, the snowplow situation, I mean, this is, we're not living in Florida, we're living in Massachusetts. And they put all these little islands in, and every one of those islands has 10 or 12 bushes in it. Where do you put the snow? You know what I mean? And the sidewalks are right beside and there is, I understand it's a tight entrance there.
Yeah.
But the design of that entrance is just so poorly done.
But I mean, the way they segregated the basketball court, walled it off from the school, so you can't get there now. I mean, the back of the building, all over, you know, there's a 2-foot sidewalk that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
So it's
that
not
we've-
functional.
We've compromised on to save money, and now it's this, you know, it's terrible. It really is terrible.
So is
And-
the
and the-
designer held responsible for
Well,
any of that?
The,
Or for
the,
this?
the building is coming nicely, I mean, I have to say.
Yeah.
They've done a nice
Well,
job.
the building itself is,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
it's gorgeous, and it has the systems in it that it needed all along. From electrical, I mean, there was a lot of issues with the way it was originally, and the inside of the building is fantastic. Fire alarm system, the sprinkler system that's in place already, and there's no reason to believe that the east wing is going to be any different. They've done a nice job on the interior of the building.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I feel like the designer was put on notice by the fire chief, and then there were other department heads that were involved in the development of the plans for the building, and to some extent, maybe to a lesser extent, actually carried over into the site work. But I think that the chief was very clear that he had asked for 3 things, and we did get the sprinkler system, obviously, which is part of the, you know, the construction under the architect. The road on the exterior of the building is under a civil engineering firm that was hired by Dorr and Whittier, and as well as the connection to the hydrant exterior of the building from this unit that was placed inside the building under these plans, the architectural plan. So there seems to be a miscommunication, if I had to guess, between the architect knowing what the fire chief wanted and what was conveyed to the engineer. And I think that they need to be notified that this was something that was requested. And perhaps we have the town's attorney, you know, run it by them where our position is on something like this. When there is communication made at a working group meeting, which is a subcommittee and is made at a public meeting, requested by the fire chief, that those were the town's instructions, and we find out where we stand in terms of our responsibility to, you know, address what is required as the fire chief feels his safety for this building, fire safety.
Yeah, we need to get a copy of the minutes for the working group meeting, and we don't have that. I mean,
No.
hopefully that will reflect the request was made.
But I don't know if it will or not, but, I mean, drawings show a sprinkler connection back there.
Yeah.
I
That
think it's
was
very
intended
important.
to be hooked up to a hydrant. So someone knew, and the design firm, that that was the idea. And for some reason, when the site plan work comes through and it's a different type of construction, site construction, there seems to be no relaying of that, you know, important piece of the site plan.
Yeah, I'm looking at the plan here, there's a lot of detail and everything else. It's not the first time they've done this, you know, I mean, when you put
No,
a
I mean,
building,
this is
when you
a-
put a building this
a
size,
sprinkler
you have to
contractor
think
here.
about, you know,
But-
fire suppression.
The
No,
sprinkler
besides this-
contractor knew that
Yeah.
this was needed and requested, so it had to have been, I don't know what, I can't explain why it didn't happen. And again, like I said, there's no, this process was different than anything else. I'd never had paper conveyed back and forth, and it was these meetings that I did go to, and I wasn't at all of them because we weren't invited to all of them, and when I found out it was missing, that's when I inquired. You know how it works with the planning board,
Yep.
both of you do.
Yep.
There's, I mean, back and forth on it all the time.
There's letters that go back and forth between, and, you know, you.
Right, and everybody
You
has
you go out to the
copies.
site and you take a look at it, and you
Yeah.
know, we've received letters from him and from the police and, you know, health department. That's just part of the job.
Sometimes it's no comments, other times this is
Yeah.
what we're looking for. And through the process, we come up with a workable
Mm-hmm.
arrangement for everybody.
I think, you know, I think under the circumstances, we have no choice but to put a hydrant in, and I wasn't in favor of it to begin with. But after going over there and seeing where this hydrant is, I mean, let's say you got hoses hooked up here and you got that road blocked and one of the firemen or someone gets hurt out back, there's no way to even get an ambulance back there
Right.
with under this scenario here. And the only way to get back there is around to the left, right? Around to the
Yeah,
right
you
is
can't go around the
restricted.
right because of the grades, and there was no way you really could make it a
It
safe.
goes down just to that one wing, but you
Yeah.
can't get any further.
And you get to the back of the link, and that's as far as you can get, which is the way it is currently. And there's the playgrounds in the way, and the elevation between the road down below the south wing and up on the east wing, there's a good separation in elevation. And it's just something that could not be accomplished, was driving all the way around.
And Chief, if I'm wrong, tell me, but the access, the hydrant is to get the engine, the pumper, in there, so you can draw the water out
Right.
and up the pressure for
Into
the fire.
sprinklers, yes, and then, again, puts us where the fire hose would be less labor intensive to get a fire hose throughout the building.
Right.
Through that door.
Yeah.
Than the main entrance. It doesn't seem like a big distance, but it is. We did a drill down there a few years ago to get a hose line to the gymnasium. And
Yep.
And we had everyone in the department that day, because it was something different that we did. And it took us 15 minutes to be able to get a hand line to the gym.
Well,
That's how much intensive work had to be done to do it. You know, and we tried going through the link, and we tried going through the front door. Yeah, the front door supply line was less, but it took us more time to get 3-inch line down the hallway to get us to close enough to the gym
Right.
to use the smaller hand lines. And it takes a lot of time, and a lot of
Yep.
people to do that. So
So are you happy, satisfied with where the hydrant is located now?
No, I've never really been happy with the location of it, but if we had the second hydrant in the back, it would have, you know, that hydrant could be used for other things, you know. It all depends on what's going on, is if that hydrant would be used or not. I was more interested in the second hydrant in the back than trying to move that one. Just because what's going on in the front of the school now, the whole front apron changed a lot, and finding a place to put it would have been problematic. You know, you get the barricades or keep the vehicles from going up into the front door. We couldn't get the truck any closer to it if the hydrant wasn't, I mean, if it was on the sidewalk, it'd be great, but the truck parks there and blocks the whole road anyway. So having it around back would have made more sense.
well, I mean, in an emergency, you're gonna use both hydrants, if there's a second hydrant.
Probably not that one. We'll probably take one off of Main Street because the water supply. That one there, like I said earlier, it's just like a stub off of Main Street. So if we're tied into a hydrant out back, we couldn't really use the one up front because it's gonna grab all the water
Right,
and
okay.
rob it from the engine in the back.
Yeah, this one here is a waste of time. Because you're not only gonna draw the water, you're gonna have blocked total access to the rest of any more equipment that needs to get in or out of the back is gonna be blocked because of the hose connection and the fire engine back there and so on and so forth. So this one here, might as well disconnect it for how much use it's gonna be, unless it's a house next door to the school, and you can use it for that one.
That or something happened in the parking lot.
Yeah, the parking lot. or
Yeah, you don't
something.
know.
I mean, yeah, we're not gonna take it out, but I mean, it's just useless in
Yeah.
terms of
And
building fire.
It never really was in a good spot to start off with.
Well, it doesn't mean it's useless, it just means that under that situation.
It's, yeah.
It's useless.
There is other,
Basically, it's useless. 90%, 95% of the time, it's useless. Because it just blocks access to everything.
yeah. I just want to emphasize, this is something I just didn't pop up with. I asked a question about where the hydrant was that I asked for, and that's what
All right.
started all this.
I don't think we got any choice. We're gonna.
What would be the incremental cost to move it from the compromise position to where you actually want it?
That I can't tell you, I have no clue. That would be something they would have to figure out, because I don't know what the cost of pipe is, cost of labor, excavation, no clue.
Well, that's why I asked you if you were satisfied with the
Oh,
compromise location.
I would like it closer to the building,
Yeah.
actually, but the work that was done is gonna get messed up, and it will be an increased cost.
It'll be another problem because you got
You're
pavement
probably-
and stuff, sidewalks back there, so
You're
you're
probably
talking
looking-
probably another $100,000.
It
Probably.
could be up over $200,000 when it's over with. I mean, realistically. You wouldn't know until you figured it out, the numbers, but it would be a lot more money.
I just can't get it through my head. I'm looking at this plan, and, you know, I've looked at a lot of plans, planning board, and I would have thought that you look at something like this, you've got a fire hydrant, out back besides the one out.
And that's usually what happens, is
Yeah.
that when there's a connection like that, there's a hydrant nearby, just for that reason.
Well, so I guess we're going to allow this to go forward, and we're going to approve the change order.
Yeah,
The
I
only
mean,
question I have is whether we approve it under protest, like we did the last one. Right?
Mr. Chairman, I absolutely think that there needs to be an investigation into this.
Yeah.
And there's obviously evidence there that what the chief instructed the designer is the proof. And there's an understanding that the designer is going to be responsible for making sure that the engineering firm they hired to design this site is going to follow through with the instructions per the fire, or for the highway, or for the police chief, whatever technical department head they're meeting with on this development of these plans. And having just finished the police and fire station, there was numerous interactions between the architect and his engineer, and things that were coming from the building to the out onto the site, where the site engineer would take over, whether it was conduits for the radio tower or other things. There was a full integration between civil engineering and architectural work. And this is a school, there's insurance issues here, there's health and safety issues with this. It's obvious that, to me, that our fire chief requested this, and there was no, periodic follow-up or anything from the project manager, ensuring that what the town's requests were being actually implemented into final design work. And we have a company that's supposed to be doing that for us.
Yeah, it's like they put that road, the sidewalk that cuts off the basketball court without asking whether the school used the basketball court for anything. I mean, Brad Dorr said that, well, the court's owned by the town, it's not owned by the school. Well, they're the same thing, I mean.
And the town owns the fields, then the town owns the school. But I just think that in a project this size, the law requires the town to hire a project manager, and the project manager should be facilitating all these things and making sure that the town's requests, whether from the fire chief, highway, police, from the selectmen, wherever, the school committee, are being implemented and followed through. And there seems to be, we need to investigate why the site plan isn't showing what the fire chief requested.
Okay, but do we want to approve the change order as it's written? I mean,
I would get legal guidance on a significant cost like this, that the town's interest is protected in any step you take, I think, on something like this.
but in other words,
This was, I believe, our error, and I don't know if the selectmen agree with that. The fire chief is saying that he requested it. So is there a decision by the selectmen that this is a mistake that the town made or not? I don't think it is.
I don't think it is our error, but I'm not sure that we can't prove that it's not our error. So there is a question of proof here, you know, like
I think that's proof. And I think
Well-
that
Like the
fire
minutes
chief-
or
the
something.
minutes would provide that proof.
Yeah.
I think we need the minutes,
That's
the
one
minutes.
statement from the fire chief that he requested it.
Well, that's not gonna,
I mean, this here has got the two connections obviously shown, but not the hydrant, so somehow, if the hydrant was shown on there, we'd
Yeah,
be all
that's
set,
just
but
a
it's not.
sprinkler plan, that's not gonna show any outside workers, it's outside the purview of the company that did the sprinkler system.
We need to look at the and read the minutes of the meeting.
Yeah, I've never seen any minutes, so I don't know if there was ever any taken, or if there were.
Public meeting.
That's a whole other issue.
I don't know. I can't tell you with any certainty.
Well, I think the other issue is, and Mr. Chairman, you brought it up, is it in the right place out back? Because you're gonna run into the same problem out there, is if the
Potentially,
hydrant's
yes.
on the back, on the opposite side of the parking lot from the
Right.
school.
It would be
As soon as you hook up now you've blocked access
It would be better.
over to the,
Closer
behind the
to the school.
gymnasium,
Yes. It
or
would be
or
better.
around the rest of that building.
It
So I
would
mean,
be better having it.
I
closer
think
to
if
the-
anything, it should be right next to the school, or even bring it further down around the corner.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be more than just right behind the building. I think it needs to be much closer to
Close.
this spot.
That's where I
And if we have,
originally
if
wanted.
it's gonna cost extra money, I think, we're better safe than sorry. I understand things are getting tight with how much, money there is available, assuming that if we end up bearing the cost, we're drawing down that contingency fund at a rather rapid rate at this point. We're fighting over 75,000 for the entrance. We did 7,500 for the computer stuff the last meeting, and now this is if we want to go further, we're talking probably a couple of $100,000 for this, and I don't know what the furniture is going to run up. I thought we were running low because of the furniture issue early in the project, but I'm not sure where that all stands at this point. But I think we need to look at, from a strictly public safety point of view, I think putting the hydrant on the opposite side in the back of the building it's better. But it's not gonna, if an ambulance has to get over to the gym, these guys are gonna be running with a stretcher, carrying the stretcher, not driving over there and picking the party
Having it
up.
closer to the building would make more sense operationally, but, I don't know how much more money that over the 130,000 that's gonna cost. I have no clue.
well, we have a problem here, though, that they want to get going on the site. They got the summer to do it. And they want to, understand that next week, they want to begin
Right.
on the 7th. Or not even on the 7th. I mean, maybe tomorrow, they might be, Saturday, they might be beginning. So, we don't have a lot of time for study and evaluation.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you can vote on this. We don't have I have not seen anything in writing though on this proposed change order. That's one thing that, a cost breakout or anything that's come in officially. Usually we get those. I haven't seen anything in writing other than what was brought up at the last Selectmen's meeting verbally. That's what, I'd be a little reluctant to vote on something without seeing that in writing, and I don't
Oh,
understand why that hasn't been put forward at all in writing. We do have a meeting on Monday night,
Yeah.
and if we have some time to actually get something in writing,
Is there a possibility that you can meet with whoever, maybe you, Mr. Chairman, along with the chief, meet with whoever would be responsible for designing this and finding out what the cost is to run that extra?
I'll meet with anybody, just,
Because if we can put it doesn't show it here, but when you go to the back of the school, there you got the bus, the road goes around close to the school, and then when the buses go in, they pull in and they come out. So even if we didn't go all the way down here, if we could get it down beyond the point where the exit, so that the fire engine is parked here, you're still gonna have access
Yeah.
to the
Oh, this-
exit
yeah.
road
Yeah.
to get over. I think the closer we can get here, so
The
we
better
don't
off.
block, I don't see how we can justify, if we're gonna spend the money, that doesn't help, in my mind, public safety wise. It's better, but it's not gonna,
It doesn't answer
doesn't
all
solve the
the
problem if we have a major incident over there. And I'm more concerned, I'm less concerned with how much fire equipment than I am ambulances and so on and so forth that might need to get back there. Or if you gotta, get a truck from Ipswich comes, or Georgetown or something, and Newbury, you guys are setting up, and now you gotta get more equipment back there. If that's blocked up over there, then, unless your first truck goes out there, and/or the ladder truck goes out there right away, meanwhile, the place is smoked up.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, to me anyway. But I think we ought to at least look at that possibility,
Karen?
what the cost would be.
And they may have, excuse me, they may have that information already, because I recall, I don't know if it was at the Selectmen's meeting or at the school building committee meeting last Thursday, that they talked about getting the price down to $130,000. So it would seem to me that they've already priced out, what the cost of getting it in the place that the chief wanted it may have been. So that work may have already been done.
Well, I think they talked at Brad Dorr the other night mentioned something about 150 or 160,000 down to 130. So I mean, they did some bargaining, but that doesn't really. I just think if we're going to do this, we need to do it right.
Yep.
And I think let's not. If it costs us extra money, it is what it is, and hopefully we can get at least some of it back from the design architect or whoever. But I think the ability to get water in there and be close to the building without blocking access all the way around. I mean, the big purpose, one of the big discussions we had was being able to get all the way around the building. If we're going to block it up back there, then we could just might as well even put that road in. Use that road money to extend the water line. You know what I mean? That's what we're running into now. Is one thing affects something else, and we just can't afford to do that.
We need to find out during the meeting, the minutes and what was said at the
Yeah.
meeting. That's important.
Right.
And also let them give us a price on what it's going to cost to put it down. Go out and take a look. It doesn't have to go all the way down that corner, but I think it definitely needs to get beyond the point where the
Blocks everything.
where the parking lot splits there, so that you can use the exit way to get around the back of the building
Well, I think
without
those-
being blocked by hoses.
These two issues should be able to be solved by Monday night. Minutes and the price on.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah. but This is a rocket science.
No,
No.
it shouldn't be.
No.
Let's see what the reaction is anyway.
Yeah.
Why don't we schedule them to come in Monday night at the meeting Monday?
Yeah.
And give us some written information, some cost estimates on paper, and design, not gonna be final design, but at least some, I mean, I asked the other night for, a drawing, and the drawing we all got was, couldn't make heads or tails out of it. There was so much, number one, it was small, but number two, there was just, had nothing to do with hydrants. It's almost like this thing. It was everything else but. So it really wasn't very helpful in terms of where the hydrant is now versus where it was going to go. And like you brought up the new issue there, so I just think that these people got to get off the stick, and if it's an emergency for them, it's an emergency for us, and the ball is in their court right now to give us the information we need to make a decision on
Right.
how we go forward. Just on verbal, we're done, I think, dealing with verbal requests. We need to see things in writing, so we know exactly what we're voting on and what will be stated in the record, so that there's no question about what was it in the minutes or not. It should be a
I think we
documentation.
may also need a little legal guidance.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem asking.
No.
Well, let's get
Asking the town council to at least start looking, and they can take a look at what the major issue is here, and then he obviously won't come out. It'll take him a while to come up with a legal opinion, but
Let's get the minutes first.
we can get a heads up, and we'll get him the minutes and whatever else we
Yeah.
can.
I think that's the way to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, you have nothing to vote on because we've received
No,
nothing
we have
No.
nothing in writing.
from the OPM, forwarded from the architect or the contractor or anything.
Mhm.
We'll take it up Monday night.
Okay.
Have them come in, and if you can be here, Chief, Monday night,
You can be here Monday night.
and hopefully we'll get the minutes anyway, and the cost estimate of what it would be to go further around the corner.
Debbie, is there, regarding the 7,500 for the WAPS WAPs, is that what they call them? Is there going to be an investigation in terms of that, or no?
Well, the
I know that
selectmen
we voted to put that through, but that's just, I was researching that after the meeting that night. And based on that discussion, I was under the impression that what was lost was maybe a small piece of technology that would be easier to misplace. When in reality, it was, those units run about $100 a piece. They're the size of a smoke detector. So to lose about 75 of them is a big volume to just accidentally get thrown away.
I think that town administrator mentioned the fact there was that whenever they discovered it,
No one was
it's
notified.
been months since they told us. At the time,
Yeah,
if they had been some sort of, because they could have been taken,
yeah,
they could have been lost. I mean, we may find them in the back corner of one of those storage
That's
units
true.
up there. Somebody had a box of stuff, and get this out of the way and put it in the corner. Who knows?
yeah.
But I mean, to try and look for those months after the incident, I think it's just, that's why.
Right.
I mean,
It just seems unreasonable that no one was
Investigation's gotta be done.
notified that they were lost, and then that if he's under the impression, well, maybe, you know, he said he's not for sure that they were lost. They could have been stolen or something, that no one was notified.
I mean, I voted for the 7,500 because I didn't feel that Triton should be. They supplied the replacements.
Right,
I certainly didn't want them
absolutely.
holding the bag on.
No, me
on
either.
that.
I just
in
think
fact, I don't even know how Triton got saddled with that
that's what I'm
out
saying. It
of the
just
blue.
seems
I mean,
like
it shouldn't.
weird.
They shouldn't have got. Why did they go to Triton?
Instead of coming
Instead of coming
to
to
their
the
contact.
committee or the
Like
town.
I said,
or
I'm
whatever.
obviously I'm just coming into this, so I'm not familiar
Yeah,
with
well.
that. But it just seems interesting that they're lost in February. Their
I mean-
point of contact's not notified, and then
Gotta, you know,
seems a little
you
weird.
get a purchase order,
That
you buy the item gets shipped, it goes on some sort of a truck to go from point A to point B, your point B, you unload the truck, somebody has to sign for
Sign.
these items, they have to be put somewhere. There's a way of tracking these things.
Well,
Yeah.
this place, it's point A, point B, point C, because they were ordered, they were delivered to Triton, and then from Triton, they were allegedly delivered to Pine Grove. That was the email I got yesterday from Larry Berger, was that they were lost at Pine Grove, not at Triton.
right. That's what I was saying.
But at the meeting the other night, that wasn't clear, based on the discussion, so.
No,
They were lost at Pine Grove, right?
Well, they don't know.
That's
Nobody knows.
Okay.
That's what the email I got yesterday said, but at
Okay.
the school building committee meeting last Thursday, that wasn't the clear
Okay.
discussion.
Right, right. It just seems like someone should be responsible for.
Yeah,
The problem is,
track of this.
if it had been a timely, if we'd have discovered that they were gone in a timely manner, you could go back to the workers and say, hey, we had a box of 75 of these, or 100, whatever the number is, and we're missing a bunch. Do you recall handling them or holding them right now? I mean, probably those workers that were there at the time were long gone. Like I say, somebody could have put them in a box, and they might be in the corner of a, I mean, we're not saying that necessarily was stolen, but it just misplaced,
Right.
and whoever was installing them should have got the whole group of them, and they would be responsible to make sure that, like Bob says, they would sign for them, but I don't know if that's the way they did things over there or not. I mean,
That was Triton installed them, the
Triton.
Triton technology.
okay.
IT.
So did he get? So he didn't get them all, I guess. I'm confused myself.
I don't know, we got a copy of the original invoice from Larry Berger, and I think there were multiple, I mean, maybe 2 phases worth ordered, I don't know exactly how many, but it was more than were replaced.
More were lost than
No,
really.
more were ordered initially.
Okay.
So some of them obviously were installed in one phase,
Okay.
and then when it came time to install the rest for the next phase,
Okay.
I think that was when they figured out that they couldn't find them.
Which seems odd.
Yeah, no, it's definitely.
If the board wishes us to continue to look at it, I did have an approval to pay the invoice, for Triton, so we've paid this is
Yeah,
Done,
we
yeah.
paid it twice.
we need the items. I mean, they can't get on without the items. I think
We can certainly look at a claim or something.
a paper follow-up would be worthwhile. You know, to find out, you know, just let Triton give us a statement that, yeah, we gave them to so-and-so, and whoever actually installed them, whether it's a Triton person or a contractor working, that they get all, you know, just to,
You just can't.
things are getting.
You can't, you're right, Dave, you can't fluff this off. You know, $7,500 here, $7,500 here, $7,500,
Yeah,
you know, after a while, you're talking real money, okay? So, you know, I'm stealing a line from the 1950s, you know, a billion here and a billion there, but, yeah,
Senator Dirksen, I think.
Senator Dirksen, exactly. You got a good memory. But, I mean, yeah.
And we're gonna run into more things. I mean, we're at the last
Exactly.
phase.
So you just can't fluff something off like this, you know, this becomes real money.
We're finding at the police and fire station, all of a sudden, there's a little, oh, wait a minute, we really needed that, okay, what's it gonna cost, we'll add it on. But those are things that we're aware of, and we know there's gonna be a lot of small things that get overlooked, but, I mean, we're looking, these aren't small things, these are huge amounts of money.
Someone should be accountable.
And everybody who sits at this table, I don't want to get on it, but everybody sits at this table, we do the budget and everything else, and you have this, you know, we have a $20 million budget here for the town, you know, when we start talking like $10,000, $20,000, that's real money here in a small operation that we have. So, yeah, $7,500, that's a lot of money.
Okay, well, I'm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, go.
I'm going to be at the construction meeting tomorrow, and I'll let them know that we want more information, extending the line further, how much that would cost. And we need to have the written change order,
It's something that the board needs to review.
and we'll take it up on Monday night.
Monday night.
In the meantime, so how are we going to get the minutes for the meeting?
I'll put in a request right now to Larry Berger
Yeah.
for a copy of all the working group. I didn't know if he had them posted on any,
I don't know, he might, but
but I, you know, not in part of those, that, you know,
Process.
group that meets, so I'm not sure. And we never get copied on what the working group minutes, you know, what their discussions are. They're not circulated or anything, so.
But I'm only invited when I've been on all of them and to a handful.
So we'll ask for that
Minutes on the Triton website,
working group.
building committee,
Okay, yeah.
subcommittee minutes.
It might be under subcommittee then.
okay. So we'll take this without, end this without formally resolving it in any way.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Want a motion to adjourn?
yes.
I'll give you that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it.
Okay.